prefer to keep the air raft warm for you guys. Tass, nervously nods. If everything's clear and everything's safe, and you want us to come into the observatory, we will, but we want to stay with the raft and keep it safe in the meantime.
I do not believe that will be necessary. It is our job to get the rest of your co-workers out of there as good of a shape as they can be.
No, I'm saying you folks go into the observatory, we're staying with the raft.
Yes, that is what I want too. We don't need non-com civilians in the middle of a potential firefight.
So, it actually sounds like we were thinking the same things.
Agree.
Are you and Tass equipped to do something if something happens? Or do you have, some kind of a noise maker? Klein looks uncomfortable reaching for a word she can't find to let us know something is wrong if something happens outside?
Well, if we find ourselves in trouble, we're going to lift the raft off and try and hail you with communications.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, the comm works in the air raft, so...
It's not that we are wholly incapable of defending ourselves, but at the moment, we don't really have any weapons, and it's more important to all of our survival if the raft survives.
Agree. All right, so let's set up an extraction time. How big is the observatory?
Well, we can probably figure that out once we get there.
I actually haven't been there in person, but I was told that there are 3 buildings present, 1 small storage shed, hab building of some sort, and the observatory itself, which is the largest of the 3.
Do you know where the personnel tend to be housed?
Well, if they're working, they would be in the observatory. Otherwise, they would probably be in the hab building.
Okay.
From what I understand, both of those have pressurization and oxygen inside.
Okay.
Supposedly, somebody lives up there? He kind of looks at Tass. It's hazy. And Tass is like, yeah, one of the scientists, I guess, spends most of her time there, to the point where we never saw her at Candling Station.
All right. I suppose that's as good of a lead as we're going to get, unless we get schematics of some kind.
Klein's face is visibly twisting at the idea that someone would willingly live here.
Fox?
Yes?
Do you have combat... Well, I know you are a good shot, but, have you ever served?
No. The closest I've seen to live combat was the time you were rescuing me and I had to patch you up from the gunshot wound.
Well, okay.
Not to mention all the fights with the Shamblers where Fox's shots were, erratic.
I mean, that's just snidely rolling. That's
the curse.
Can't pin that all on Vox.
As I recall, you hit at least once or twice, right?
Oh, I've hit quite a few times, yes, but...
All right, Fox. I need you to stick with us as per usual. Okay?
Yep.
Guess you're getting on-the-job training.
Yay! I have to buy my own uniform again, don't I?
Yep.
And the pay is shit, too. All right.
Pay is always shit.
Captain, we are ready to go if you are ready to go.
All right, let's get this over with.
Agree.
He basically punches a bunch of information into the control panel. So he's sitting in the driver's seat. In the middle in the front row is Tass to assist him if he needs it. Who else is in the front? There's one more seat in the front.
I feel like it should be either me or the corporal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm better at longer range.
Yes, and I wasn't sure if that meant that would mean you were better in the front or in the back.
Well, front, so he can see what we're approaching.
All right.
My guns tend to make me a dedicated marksman, so I'd probably be mid to long, ideally.
Think up front is better?
Yes.
Okay. Vox and I get the butt.
All right, so the corporal watches Eric punch the information into the control panel and notes that he is actually programming an autopilot. He certainly has the skill necessary to fly the thing manually, but he is using some sort of onboard autopilot for the time being.
Don't blame him.
He'll probably take over for the actual landing.
Okay, so you're just punching coordinates to the observatory and just letting it ride up?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, most pilots do that because why the hell would you want to be constantly paying attention to every little detail?
Yeah, that's true. Just take over if it goes sour.
So the raft smoothly lifts off the ground and flies up into the perpetual twilight of the atmosphere of DKB-1. For most of the flight path, he is staying in atmosphere, but all of you, as soon as you lift off, are cautioned to have your, to make sure not to take your helmet off, not that you were planning on it anyway. And they have pressure masks on as well.
Actually, I believe we gave him a vac suit.
We gave both of them vac suits, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe so. Even if you hadn't, there would have been one in the boot for the air raft. So, yeah, everyone is safe. The majority of the flight is not very eventful. The raft carries you over, and you start to see the terrain elevate underneath you and rise up, and you can see topographically that you were still inside of one of the large craters. As I mentioned, the low points on Alpha are the only places where there's thick enough atmosphere to sustain human life. And you see the crater wall going up and up and up, and the air raft begins to lift outside of the thin atmosphere. And you can see in the distance the observatory. And as described, there are 3 buildings. One of them is so small you can barely see it at this distance. It looks like it would just be a little, probably 10-foot by 10-foot shed. There is a large, squat building that looks like it would be the Hab cluster. So just a bunch of the, kind of like an extended barracks. Similar to the individual Hab houses that you found in Candling Station, there's probably several of those inside of this large, squat, ugly building. As the raft gets closer, you can see there are cables and hoses running from the Hab building over to the observatory. The observatory is much larger, and there's a telescope coming out of the top. There is a whole bunch of equipment bristling from the top. And as the air raft makes its approach, you notice a couple of things. There's some damage to the roof of the building. So I would like, I believe it's the corporal that has communications, that has like comms, right?
That's Klein, isn't it?
I'm the comms president over here.
All right, Klein, give me a check on your comms.
Yeah, okay.
And the other 2, I would like you to make recon checks.
Oof. I don't even have recon.
Sorry to ask, but what modifier, if any, do I add to this?
Education.
What would I be rolling for a raw skill? Because I don't have recon.
That would be intellect in this instance.
Right, and that would be like -3, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's at -3 if you have it unskilled.
Yeah.
Oof.
I mean, yeah, there was no way I was gonna... I mean, I have computers and I have like some other stuff, but nothing like...
Alright, so Klein notices the reason why no one's been able to hail the observatory, something skimmed the roof of the observatory and it took out the main antenna from their comms array. And the corporal kind of sees the angle and the markings on the roof of the observatory following the damage, and he sees just past the observatory in the craggy terrain at the top of the wall, there is the facility's second air raft, and it is crashed and mangled.
Oh. Oh, fantastic.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
So, as the air raft carrying our heroes circles around the observatory, looking for a safe spot to land, they're confronted with this ominous sight. A crashed air raft, a damaged observatory, and no obvious sign of survivors.
Special thanks to our logo designer Sierra Twazin, to Toys and Things in Danvers, Massachusetts, Reaper Miniatures, and Mongoose Publishing. If you enjoy the show, help the podcast grow. Give us a follow on Twitter at Lords Broken, join the community Discord, and maybe consider offering a small tribute to the old ones on our Ko-Fi. All these links and more can be found in our link tree at linktr.ee/The Broken Lords. Thank you.
Podcast recommendations, you ask? Brian Wayne here, co-curator of The Apocalypse. And I know that sounds gnarly. That's because it is gnarly, man. The Apocalypse. What is The Apocalypse? The Apocalypse is a culmination of the gnarliest podcast, independent podcast the internet has to offer. So instead of trying to go to Twitter the next time you need a new podcast to listen to and try to get Twitter famous, podcast recommendations, please. Just think The Apocalypse, man. And it's ironic because The Apocalypse is only the beginning. It's only the beginning. But just go to podchaser.com. It's in the top lists in the whole world. So whether you're looking for true crime, sports, role-playing, I don't know, anything. Think of a podcast. It's on The Apocalypse. It's like the apocalypse with a D. And do not forget to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter as well. Once again, that is The Apocalypse. If you're looking for a podcast recommendation, The Apocalypse is sure to have something for you.